Representative Newberry.
Point of personal privilege.
Please state your personal privilege.
I will elaborate on what I'm about to say. It's about public statements that were made about me. So before I get to the specifics of why I got up today, I want to comment a little bit on social media in this country. I used to think that social media was a net positive. I think I still do, but the balance of that's been changing as I've watched this country get torn apart by social media commentary. I won't get into all the details. I think we can all agree it puts people in silos, puts people in echo chambers, and worse, I think it reinforces the worst instincts of humanity. It basically allows people to reward the worst character attacks, the loudest voices, the most extreme voices. And the worst of those social media sites is Twitter. Now, I use Twitter as an elected official because it's a good way to get a message out, but otherwise I have no real use for it. The worst part about Twitter is that it does not, let me put it this way, you can't really control people reply to you or respond to you or drag you into conversations. Not much you can do about that. And what that does is it leads to the proliferation of trolls. Now, we all know there's lots of Twitter trolls. There's the anonymous ones who are sad, pathetic losers, frankly, in my opinion, are not worth our consideration. But there are the people that, amazingly, I think maybe I should know better from watching our celebrity culture, but you would think that people would have the natural instinct not to want to embarrass themselves under their own name, but they still do. It amazes me. And there are plenty of people out there who think it's perfectly appropriate to go on Twitter and say the most defamatory, salacious things about people. And I find it incredible. But again, most of those people I don't really care about. I don't care, as my children would call it, what some rando says to me about on Twitter. What does it matter? And as elected officials, we all have to deal with it when it comes to the territory. I think people who do this are basically cowards. You know, I was giving some thought to this, and one of the problems in society is that there used to be a time when if you questioned someone's honor, their integrity, or their character, there were repercussions for that. And I'm not suggesting it was a good thing. I'm not suggesting we go back to the days of dueling pistols or anything like that, but there used to be a time when you said something about someone, you meant it, and you were willing to take the consequences. The problem with social media is people are allowed to get away and say whatever they want. There's no consequences whatsoever. So it enables, frankly, the cowardly people among us. It enables them to talk and say things they would never have the guts to say in person to someone. Now, you may ask, why do I care if I don't care what people say about me on Twitter? Well, I usually don't, but there was one specific instance that I'm going to recite now, which is why I got up, that I do care about. As we all know, there was a riot at the US Capitol on January 6th. I was asked on Twitter by the Providence Journal for comment. Now, I've been very publicly critical of the riots going on around this country this summer, particularly in places like Portland and Seattle, going on again last night, in fact. And so my response to the Providence Journal on Twitter, and you can look it up if you want, I'm paraphrasing myself, was essentially, I think violent riots are bad. I think violent rioters are bad people. I don't care what their reasons are or why they're doing it. And I think they should be arrested and prosecuted, whether it's in Washington, Seattle, Portland, or any number of other cities. Apparently, it's a controversial position for some people, but I'm not here to debate that. That is the extent of what I said. I also retweeted one article that elaborated on that same point. In response, one individual had this to say. I'm not even going to read it all. It's too long. But this is what this individual had to say about me. This is the most cynical of our politics. For me, Democrats are to blame for yesterday's historic act of treason. For him, it is of no particular offense the US Capitol was sieged to thwart an election. It then goes on to say an epic failure to meet this time with any semblance of good faith, a deep betrayal wrapped in a cavalier attitude. It is disgraceful, and it must be realized as such, absolutely appalling. Well, let me tell you something. First of all, I never said Democrats were to blame. I wouldn't say that because A, it's not true, and B, it's stupid. I don't like being accused of stupidity, and I don't like being lied about on public platforms. I also don't like being told that I don't care about the Capitol being sieged. It's offensive, it's false, it's defamatory. The rest of the stuff could be considered opinion, a cavalier attitude, betrayal, disgraceful, appalling, whatever. The problem is the coward that wrote this is a member of this chamber, a newly elected one who I've never met. How dare he? How dare you? I am not going to stand by and have a member of this chamber publicly say lies about me ever without responding. I'm not going to name that person, but I'm getting up here today so you all know what we're dealing with. And I will conclude with this, Mr. Speaker. My favorite line in this was the beginning. This is the most cynical of our politics. Nothing I said was cynical. You may disagree, but it's what I think, and I'll debate you anytime. But you want to know what's cynical? What's cynical is running for office, getting support and money from people, making public promises to those people, and then the instant the ink is dry in your election, betraying that promise. That's far more cynical than anything I said. Thank you.
Thank you.